Musk versus Zuckerberg, the clash of the titans of technology. What does it mean for technology? What does it mean for the culture? And what does it mean for the future of humanity? Let's dig into it. My name is Dr. V, and this is my channel where we scale the summit of consciousness and technology together. Now, this battle, this clash between Zuckerberg and Musk, it's been in the news, it's in your social feeds if you have been following the news. If you don't live behind the moon, you must have heard about it. There has been rumors of whether they're going to fight in an MMA type bout in Las Vegas or somewhere in an octagon. Now, there has been a lot of back and forth, a lot of bickering, but we're not going to go into the sensationalist side of the news. What matters to us is, what do these two people actually stand for, these great entrepreneurs, these titans, Promethean titans of technology, who each in their way have brought humanity access to new ways of engaging with technology? What do they stand for? What types of visions of technology do they actually promote and present and push forward in their respective ventures? Now, the question of how we deal with technology is a huge question, is actually the most defining challenge of our time. We live in a hyper-technological age, an age in which the entire stack of new emerging and exponential technologies, from AI over blockchain to virtual reality to biotechnology or nanotechnology, all of these are exploding onto the scene, and they are promising, or in many cases actually enacting already, a complete disruption and revolution of every aspect and every facet of our lives. So how we deal with technology, how we choose to govern it, how we set up the systems of technology is the most important question of our times. There have been some very perspicacious thinkers who saw this importance of this question even before it fully had arisen, such as the great philosopher, probably the greatest philosopher of the 20th century, Martin Heidegger, who basically posed this challenge to us, who said that how we deal with technology, what he called the question regarding technology, is the defining challenge for us. So what he said is that technology, it has this propensity to become what he called enframing, das Gestell, a framing basically which controls and manipulates and limits our expression and our authentic ability to live freely, to express ourselves authentically. And instead, we become these cogs in a machine. We become these limited beings that have basically given up their freedom. So instead, what we have to develop and what we have to work for is a new beginning, is a new way of dealing with technology, which entails a new science, a new consciousness, an entirely new way of living, which is what we talk about on this channel, which is what we have called the planetary consciousness, the next level consciousness. Now, let's get to Zuckerberg and Musk. As I said, what's really important here is that they stand for two very different visions of what technology should be. And when you extrapolate that into the future, you can see that those different visions have huge repercussions for the future of humanity. Let's get into Zuckerberg first. Zuckerberg, this guy, when you look at him, when you look at his psychological makeup, and there are tools for really decoding and understanding and illuminating the dynamic forces at play in the personality, in the psyche, and also in the cosmic position of a person. We'll talk about this later in due time. When you look at this person, he is somebody who is all about controlling and centralizing and manipulating information. That's his main drive, his main intention. And you can see that in his life, in his biography. You can see that how he set up his companies, how he set up Facebook, which of course today is become Meta, the big umbrella company that holds ventures and platforms such as Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and others. When he set up Facebook originally, which was still called The Facebook, there's a movie about it which I can recommend for you to watch, The Social Network, which tells you about the story, the genesis. So when he set this venture up, he initially basically stole the idea from others. He monopolized the idea, which he had also contributed to, but he was not the main driving force. It was others. He kind of monopolized the idea. He cut the others out, and he ran with it. He stole it, and he ran with it, and he made some very shrewd and smart moves to cut the others out, some very manipulative moves to cut the others out and set up his venture. Without them, famously, the guys who actually had the original idea, the Winklevoss brothers, they went on to become these big heroes in the Web3 and Bitcoin space, which is quite telling and interesting because the Web3 space is really that counter model to how Facebook is run. But we'll get to that in due time. So Facebook, let's get back to what Facebook became after Zuckerberg had set it up in this way. It went on to become a venture that was really built on the idea of centralizing, controlling, and manipulating. So yes, it was hugely successful, and it connected lots of people who had previously not been connected. In many countries, it's all over the world. Billions of people are using platforms like Facebook and WhatsApp, and many, many people started to connect with others which previously had not been connected. It was a new experience when it came out. I remember well in the initial phases, it was a great new experience to be able to connect with other people who had similar likes or similar ideas or similar activities. But the thing is that this empowerment for the masses to connect, it came with a price tag. It came with a huge price tag. And the price tag was not really clear in the beginning. It only became clear later on, after you had spent a lot of time, after you had taken all of your social networks and all of your friends and family and all of your activities, all of your likes, all of the movies, everything that makes you had taken it on the platform. Then it came out that all this time they had been tracking every little thing you do, not just in Facebook, but on your browser, on the internet, everywhere and anywhere. They had been tracking and recording all of that, and they were packaging and parceling that information, and they were selling it to others to make money, and then also to use that information to come back and manipulate you. Manipulate you to do what? Well, first, obviously, to do what their advertisers want you to do because you get targeted advertising. Nothing per se bad about that. But it's not just the advertising. There is actually a lot of other things that they're doing. So there's subliminal messaging, the way that messages are placed. There's a lot of dark and shady stuff that's happening there, which goes way beyond just showing you advertisements. A lot of this, what I call the dark and shady stuff, it was revealed in a series of scandals and a series of revelations, the most famous of which was the Cambridge Analytica case, where it came out that the information and the data of millions of people, it was sold to these lobbyists and these groups that were interfering in elections. So to change the outcomes of elections, they would run very, very targeted messages based on information that they had bought about everybody so that they could interfere and then push the ideas or the conversation in a certain direction. There was some ex-Facebook staffers who came out and they complained about the data policies. They said that this company is not respecting anybody's privacy. Even the original founders of WhatsApp, whose venture was acquired by Mark Zuckerberg, they left in protest. They had signed NDAs. They couldn't speak much about it, but it's pretty well known. They left with a great protest, and they said, this is not why we created this platform. This guy has no respect for people's individuality and privacy and freedom. So this is really a theme that is repeated again and again and again in the history of Facebook, and does not come at a surprise that today Facebook is really at the forefront of this whole movement of cancel culture and censorship on social media. So these platforms that are basically censoring you and cutting you out and canceling you if you say something which is not conforming with the dominant discourse of the powers that be, of the establishment, which in this case is globalism or wokeism or woke globalism, the combination of those two. I've actually made a video about that. You can check it out. So Facebook has become one of the leaders, if not the main place where this censorship and the cancel culture takes place, and at the same time where your individual data and privacy is not respected, and it's super intrusive and gets into everything you do and takes everything you do and uses it for things that you don't really know what they are. Now, Facebook is not the only company that does this. There has been some astute studies and theories about this. There has been a book called Surveillance Capitalism, on Surveillance Capitalism, by Shoshana Zuboff. She's a Harvard business theorist, which this book made some big waves, where she describes the modus operandi of these types of companies, which is not just Facebook, it's also Google, it's also a couple of others that are in that mode, in that vein of operating. Interestingly, Apple is not among them. Apple is a company that has consistently respected the privacy of its users, much more so than any other company. Maybe that still goes back to the legacy of the great Steve Jobs. But now, that's another story. Let's stick here with what we're talking about. In this paradigm of surveillance capitalism, what is this all about? Surveillance capitalism, it's basically a mode of operation where these companies, what they're making money from is to control and manipulate your future behaviors, right? So they basically use all kinds of very subtle means. They have their own paradigms for so-called social physics by a guy called Pentland, who developed this originally, basically how to use data and statistics to manipulate people, to get them to do what you want them to do. And social physics, social engineering, these are the paradigms, and they're used as a way to basically to nudge you and to give you subliminal messages and to manipulate you through all sorts of technologies and techniques to do what they want you to do. In this case, obviously, it's the advertisers, but as I said before, it's not just always the advertisers, it's oftentimes people that you don't even know who they are. It could be secret services, it could be some big lobbyists who are staying in the background, it could be some dark, pressure groups that nobody knows about, which are using this data. So it's not, if it was just advertisers like you and me, you can go on Facebook and you can buy ads for your own brand. And that's perfectly fine. People are going to see your brand. They'll like it. So what? Not a problem, right? But it's not just you and me putting ads on there. There are these big groups who have vast capitals. When they want to use this data, they can use it to move entire social sentiments and entire elections in a different direction. They can move entire countries in different directions. So that's where it gets dangerous and pernicious. So let's summarize this. This approach, surveillance capitalism, the approach that Zuckerberg and his ventures are all about. It's about what? It's about centralizing, it's about controlling, it's about manipulating the information. Now, contrast that with Elon Musk. Let's look at Elon Musk. When we look at Elon Musk, this guy, what is he known for? On the one hand, he's known for being an innovator, a rebel, a visionary. He's somebody who seems to not even care for money, ironically, for some time the richest person in the world, but is not his main motivator. His main motivator is to revolutionize our possibilities as humanity, is to bring new possibilities and new opportunities to humanity. Every venture he starts is about, look, there's this huge problem that humanity has. I'm going to solve that. I'm going to bring a new way for humanity to deal with this. Whether it's Tesla, that's all about sustainable transportation for the whole planet, or it's SpaceX, which is about making spaceflight commercially viable, taking it out of the hand of the states that are inefficient and instead making it viable so that so that ventures and entrepreneurs can start getting into it too. Or whether it's about the Boring Company, which many people don't know about, which is digging holes into the ground for new types of transportation as well. So this guy, he is about revolutionizing things. But what's really important and where the real difference here is that when you look at all of his ventures and all of his activities, there is that one constant, which is a commitment, an absolute commitment, an unwavering commitment to decentralization and transparency, which is the opposite of centralizing data. It's the opposite. It's decentralization. It's let the information free. Let the people be free with their information and their data. Let's not centralize the data and control it from some dark backdoor room from behind the scene, but let's leave it open. So this has been a constant in Musk's activities. I'm going to give you a couple of examples to illuminate this, to exemplify this. Look at the takeover of X, formerly known as Twitter. So Twitter, before Musk took it over, was at the forefront of the censorship movement, of the cancel culture, the platforms that would deplatform you, that would censor you. Obviously, you know, the most famous case is the former president of the United States who was blocked and deplatformed. So there you can't get much bigger than that. But it's not just that. There's many people who there weren't basically their views were not amenable to the establishment. Their views were not acceptable to the establishment, to the powers that be, and they were deplatformed. And after Musk took over, the first thing he did is he fired that entire department of censorship people. He said, like, we don't need you here. You can all go home. We won't have censorship here. And since then, that platform X has become the place where free information can be expressed, where people are free to express themselves, and the censorship and the cancel culture has taken a back seat. The second example that I'm going to give you is Musk and his embrace, his very public embrace of Bitcoin, of Web3. He even, as you know, he famously is backing this funny kind of meme coin, which is called Dogecoin. But what's important here is that he's been super public about backing Bitcoin exactly because it's a decentralized form of governance for money. Actually, that's when you dig deeper, when you look into the interviews, that's actually Elon's vision for X. So X, the idea is to eventually become a financial exchange platform. So that's much, much, much bigger than being a social communication platform. That's also why it's starting to be integrated with Web3 crypto payments. And you know, there's some very interesting things going on there on that interface between X and crypto. But again, the point here is that the Web3 space, think back to our Winklevoss brother friends, the Web3 space is about decentralization, is about there is no one centralized entity which controls the game. There is just a certain rule set which is transparent, everybody can read it, and then everybody can have a node, everybody can mine, everybody can contribute, everybody can see every single smart code on everybody can see every single smart contract on the blockchain, and it's completely transparent and open. So this is the second example. The third example that I want to make is OpenAI, actually. It's OpenAI. So OpenAI, you can go and read up on it. It was launched, it was founded with the vision and the mission of being a platform that would never centralize and close down the data, that would always be decentralized, that would always be open, hence the name OpenAI. That's actually why Elon Musk backed them in their foundation with a whole chunk of money, with the big bag which he put down. And he said, you know, I'm backing this. And what happened is that Sam Altman and the leadership of OpenAI, they took the whole thing in a different direction. So they are actually going the same route of Google and Facebook and others. They're becoming one of these kind of closed, you know, centralized companies that are taking data, closing the doors, and then trying to monetize off that, of having those kind of closed gates. But that's not the original intention with which it was founded, and it was not the reason why Elon backed it, and he has been very vocal about his opposition to the course that OpenAI has taken now, and there are now other ventures and platforms out there. I want to mention Singularity Net, which is a very interesting project by Ben Goertzel. Check it out if you don't know. There's others out there which are about a decentralized form of artificial intelligence. And those are, again, this is again an example for the commitment to decentralized models. Now, the fourth example that I want to bring in, this is probably the most important one, it's what? It's Neuralink. Now, Neuralink is, potentially the most impactful venture in human history once it gets successful in connecting our brains through brain-machine interface, BCI, brain-computer interface technologies, directly to the net, because that will mean that your brain's computing power will be exponentially expanded and you will get access to all the knowledge in the world instantaneously. But now imagine what would happen if a company like Facebook, a company that operates under surveillance capitalism, a company that benefits from stealing, from taking your data, from monopolizing your data, and then from sending you messages to control and direct and nudge you, to manipulate you, what would happen if they were to gain control over what's going on in your brain? So directly on the neural interfaces and the connectomics and the connections in your brain, not just what you think, but how you think, but actually the neurons and the synapses in your brain, they would get access to those. What would happen? It would be the most unimaginable form of mind control that has ever existed. Now, this is exactly why Elon, when he launched Neuralink, and again, he said that he has been vocal about this. He said, I'm launching this because it's so important that this technology stays open and decentralized and it does not become centralized. This is the reason why he's founded it and why he's investing so much into it. So put all of these examples together and you will see that we have two different visions. For the future of humanity, we have one where technology is being used for controlling and manipulating people in the interests of certain groups, certain people who are going to stay in the background, who maybe have other plans for themselves. We're going to get to that in future videos to reveal that a little bit, what that could be. And we have another vision, which is about making things accessible for all, making things decentralized and transparent, and empowering all of us to benefit from technology. Therefore, in conclusion, when you look at it, Musk is on the side of humanity, Zuckerberg is on the side of Skynet. Now, you go and think about it for yourself. On which side do you want to be? That's something for you to figure out, but I already know you're going to, because you're watching this, and you're going to subscribe, and you're going to make the right decision, and I look forward to further explorations on this journey. This is Dr. V. I'm out.